I am your host, RP. I am life. I am energy. I am the possibility of what comes next. Moving with purpose, speaking with power, and becoming more every day.
Hey, I'm your co-host. I am King Mackie, better known as Haru the Great. I am necessary.
I'm your co host, King Christopher. I'm here to recognize truth, evaluate the path, leverage knowledge, wisdom, and discipline, and implement change through action.
Absolutely. Outstanding, gents. Outstanding, gents. King, hit us with that affirmation.
Gotcha. All right, we stand together as brothers, united in purpose and grounded in respect. We move with love, speak with clarity, and we carry peace. No ego, no division, only growth. Each voice matter. Together, we build something greater. We are aligned. We are ready. Peace in our energy, power in our unity, and purpose in our message. It is done.
It is
It
done.
is done. It is done. Sunday Book Club is powered by Brothers of Many Words. It is a weekly space for meaningful reading, honest conversation, cultural insight, personal growth, and deeper understanding. Each book becomes a doorway into wisdom, history, identity, discipline, purpose, and transformation. This year's topic is Origins of Religion. In today's book, which we have been discussing, we're a little bit into it now, is African Glory by author J.C. DeGraff Johnson, if you will. Today we'll be covering chapters 5 through 7. But before we start there, I'm going to give us a little bit of words of inspiration, if you will. From the origins of Africa, where humanity first learned to stand, struggle, and endure, comes a timeless truth. Hardship is not foreign to life, but woven into its beginning. To search your soul is to remember that your strength is ancient, your pain is not without purpose, and your journey is connected to something older than fear. In every trial, carry yourself with dignity, because within you lives a history of survival, wisdom, courage, and
Mm,
becoming, still rising through time. I absolutely love that.
Yes, man.
yes,
That's
yes,
great.
yes,
Absolutely love
yes.
that. Cool beans. How's everybody doing today, Kings?
Oh,
Wonderful.
loving life, brother. Loving life.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful day. Anybody do anything special for the weekend, for the holiday, if you will?
Try to stay off the roads.
Right.
It's crazy here at Lake Ozark, man. It is
Oh,
insane.
y'all have no idea.
I have a little bit of an idea, but
Oh, but yeah, I mean, you do. But I own a security company, and the strip last night, it was unreal. It was
Wow.
unreal. We have never seen that mass of people in one area on the strip. We
it's
haven't.
crazy how
Wow.
busy it's getting here.
Oh my goodness, bro! I mean, it was unreal. I mean, everybody was shocked. The owners of the bars were just shocked at the amount of people that were at the strip yesterday.
It's
Yeah.
becoming a spot, man.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It is definitely gaining some attraction from all over the country for sure.
I just can't
Wow.
imagine what it's going to be like when the that theme park gets installed and finally
I do
finished.
Mm.
agree. I do
And then with
agree.
Bass Pro and that new
Hmm.
um s- uh that somebody bought that the mall outlet and they're getting ready to redo it. Bass Pro Shops are
Right.
going in, the
Right.
entertainment venue. It's going to be
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's gonna
It's
be a good time.
yeah. And they're supposed to be turning the strip into a district where you can do open container and all that too. So
Oh,
that's gonna be massive. It's gonna be massive.
Big time.
any of your guys get hurt last night?
Hey, you know what? Look. I am knocking on wood. The last two nights we have had no fights.
Awesome.
No fights.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
No, yeah. Normally we run about 5 security guards. The last two nights we've ran 10 security guards, and we had no issues at all.
Good.
None.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it
All
worked
right,
out great.
Kings. Let's get into this podcast. Let's give a little bit of insight on the author himself. It's Mr. J.C. DeGraff Johnson. Born John Coleman DeGraff Johnson in Ghana, was an African historian, economist, and scholar best known for African Glory, the story of vanished Negro civilizations. First published in 1954, the book challenged racist and Eurocentric interpretations of African history by presenting Africa's ancient civilizations as sophisticated, influential, and worthy of serious study. Educated in West Africa and Britain, DeGraff Johnson brought both scholarly training and cultural understanding to his work. His writing helped restore pride to African heritage, emphasizing that African history did not begin with slavery or colonization, but with powerful civilizations, knowledge, leadership, resistance, and collective achievement. And so, just to give everyone a little bit insight to what we covered last week, that was chapters 3 and 4, 3 and 4. And so, chapter 3 was it covered discussed Rome's interaction with Africa and how far they went into the interior, Caesar's dream of rebuilding Carthage, if you will, the exterminations of certain species due to climate change, and the Roman Colosseum games, if you will. The number of animals that they used just to put those shows on was tremendous. It was how the word racism was not even in existence back then. That
Nope.
meant nothing to them back then, as relevance is to this day. And the great general Septimius Severus, chapter 4, was about the North African church, the fall of Rome, the persecution of Christians, the second coming of Christ, and the three iconic bishops of the North African church, Tertullian, Cyprian, and Augustine, who laid the foundation for Christianity at that time. And so this week we're moving into chapters 5 through 7. Chapters 5 through 7. We'll kick it off with chapter 5, and that title is "The Vandals in Africa." The Vandals in Africa, and that's on page 55. What insight?
53.
What? Yeah, 53. My bad. What insight did you gentlemen get on page 53?
Well, just starting off, man, I'm still astonished about how Eurocentric our history model is. I mean, it's just crazy. The more I'm reading these books and these chapters, and it all started with the church. I mean, from my point of view, it seems like it started with Christianity.
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree. And then we're going into the Vandals. Let's get an understanding who the Vandals were. The Vandals were Germanic people who conquered parts of North Africa during the 5th century CE and created what we know as the Vandal Kingdom. After the fall of parts of Western Rome Empire, the Vandals, led by Genseric, crossed into North Africa around 429 CE. They eventually captured Carthage in 439 CE, which became their capital. So that gives you a little bit of insight about who the Vandals were. Okay.
And the only reason why they came here is because Boniface, Count Boniface, sent them a letter and asking for them to come.
Right. He was a Roman legate in Africa, and so you're dead on. He was on his way to Rome. He got invited there, but he got wind that they were plotting his ruin, and so his wife was a Vandal. She was from the Vandal heritage, and she asked them if they could assist him in that. And at that time too, the Vandals were going through their troubles from where they were, and being pushed out by the Visigoths and things like that. So they happily accepted that invitation, and so they came, 80,000 man, woman, and children. Traveled there to that part of Rome, and to his demise on page 54. Just like what happened to the Numundians and the Mediterraneans, when Carthage, was looking for help, they sided with Carthage, but they sided with Rome. The same thing happened here. He was asking the Vandals for help, and instead, yes, they came to help, but they also came and stayed and took over his country as well.
And they ruled for 100 years. Ruled for 100 years. Yeah,
not just ruled. They were conquering people. They were very mean. People. They didn't care about the land. They took over all the Africans in North Africa.
That's
right. They took all the good land for themselves.
Yeah, they did. Yes. Yeah. I mean, heavily taxed the poor land. Heavily taxed.
And then they destroyed everything and didn't rebuild anything. They just destroyed.
Sure.
They didn't build anything.
They didn't.
They were just savages.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just to read a little bit right there on page 54, that last paragraph, if you will, about King Genseric. Rex Vandelrum had a long and eventful reign of 48 years. In the middle of his reign, the Roman Empress Placidia died, and her son Valentinian III, a weak man with a violent temper, killed his firmest supporter. Valentinian was soon murdered by Maximum, who compelled Valentinian's widow, the Empress Eudoxia, to become his wife. Eudoxia sent for Genseric to avenge her husband's death, but like
Right.
Count Boniface before her, she would live to regret ever sending an invitation to the Vandals. So he turned around and did the same thing, not just to Boniface, but to her as well.
I mean,
It,
she should have learned.
Sounds like a soap opera, y'all. Sounds like a
it
soap
really
opera.
does. But these are, yeah, I mean, these are real time things. And you're
Oh,
right. He had
man.
just did it to
Yeah.
Boniface, just did it,
Hmm.
and turned around and he did the same thing to her as well. And
Right.
you're right about his demeanor. He was not a nice person. He was not a nice person. And so on page 55 there, I believe it's paragraph 4. We have seen how Genseric treated Rome and those who governed. How did he treat the conquered Africans who once formed part of Africa, Romania?
Ah,
He gave
horrible.
all the richest African nobles to be slaves
Yep.
to his sons and chief followers, and distributed
Mm.
all the best lands among the Vandals, as Chris just mentioned. These lands became known to history as the Vandal lots. The African people were forced onto the forest lands, and there were so heavily taxed that life became a burden. He
Yep.
was not a nice person.
No.
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 And I wanted, if you got in mind, I wanted to continue reading that. I had
Go
this
ahead.
circled. At the bottom, this is an excerpt that Dracothus talks about. He's a poet at the time, and he talks about the rule on the rule under the Vadkols and the African point of view. That says, "The chains wound me, the tortures overwhelm me, poverty wastes me. I am covered with rags. People who knew me and strangers turn from me. My life is oozing away. My parents know me no longer. My many slaves have fled. My clients despise me." That just goes on how the culture and what was going on at that time during the Vandals' rule. It wasn't pleasant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there was something significant in this too, is that um the religion at the time, it was two different Christianities that ruled in a sense. You know what I mean? You had the Arian Christianity, which was mainstream, and then you had the Roman Catholic Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
which was built based upon Rome itself. The
Mm-hmm.
Arian Christianity they believed that God the Father alone was internal and supreme. Jesus was created by God, therefore, Jesus was not equal to God the Father. Jesus was divine in the lesser sense, but not fully internal like the Father himself. And then we know the Roman Catholic Nicene
Mm-hmm.
Christianity, which was the mainstream Christianity at the time. It was shaped by the first Council of Nicaea. Jesus is fully God and fully divine. The Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit are co-internal. Jesus was not created. Jesus and the Father shared the same divine essence. So that was a conflict too at that time, because you
Mm-hmm.
you had the Vandals bringing in their Christianity, and then the Christianity at the time that already was stood in, which is the Roman Catholic as well. So that was part of
Mm-hmm.
another conflict that led.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just add to that, King, and you dead on. So it was Rome and the Empire one time was at one together, but they did split into the east and to the west.
They sure did.
And so yes, and so the division occurred around AD 285 under Emperor Diocletian for administrative
Hmm.
efficiency. The Eastern Roman Empire, known as the Byzantine Empire, thrived with its capital in Constantinople. The Western Roman Empire forced economic decline and invasion faced, leading to its fall in AD 476. Cultural and linguistic differences emerged, with Latin predominating in the West and Greek in the East. The two halves developed distinct political structures and governance styles over time. The division set the stage for the rise of medieval Europe and the continuation of the Byzantine Empire. But you're dead on with that, King. There's also at that time too, that was a part of the Vandals' demise as well. Because they didn't reach out and integrate, as we've seen as
Right.
the conquerors of Egypt did. They integrated and themselves into that
Right.
philosophy or anything
Right.
that was Egypt, but they didn't do that, and so that was basically their fall because they didn't do that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Part of it.
Visigoths that pushed them out, they were primarily Christians, and the Vandals,
Hmm.
when they got defeated, they just kind of disappeared. They kind of got absorbed into Africa.
Yep.
We don't
No
really
doubt.
have. There's not really anything in history that really talks about them after this.
This is true. This is true. This is true.
And they couldn't go back to Spain because the Visigoths were there, and with the Gothic Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. What about page 56 or 57?
I'm good, brothers. I'm good.
I'm good with that.
Okay. So moving on.
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
I do want to bring up Carthage, because after Carthage, Rome sacked him and they rebuilt it. But then Carthage came under the Byzantine rule, and during the Byzantine rule, Carthage did have many institutions for liberal arts and philosophy, and so they were starting to bring the sciences back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they were that's right. And so, however, still the people who were of Africa, life was still no better for them.
No,
they were still ruled very harshly. They're still.
I mean, the Byzantine Empire, for a lot of people that don't know, the Byzantine Empire was, if I remember, I think it was the east side of Rome. The west side fell, and the east side stayed intact, and that became the Byzantine Empire.
That's
and
correct.
They ruled for another 1,000 years.
That's correct. That is correct. That's correct. Okay, moving on to chapter 6. Chapter 6 is the Muslim invasion of Africa. The Muslim invasion in Africa. So I'm going to start right up there with paragraph 1, the very first paragraph. It has been pointed out that the emperors of the Roman Empire who had first persecuted the Christian church were in later years to become more tolerant and were even to adopt Christianity as the official religion. Later still, in Justinian's reign, the state was actively engaged in missionary work, and we find Julian receiving the Empress Theodora's permission to preach Christianity to the Negroes of Nobody. And so right there, just sets the precedence of what this chapter is going to be about. The adoption of Christianity and how they viewed that as far as preaching to the Negroes, if you will.
Right.
Yeah, this is when Rome starts actively spreading Christianity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they start going spreading south. And on page 6, 58, it talks about Alexandria, and that city was still the spirit. It was like the spiritual home of the Egyptian religion still.
Mm-hmm.
That's where people still practice it.
Yeah. The interests of the state and the church were one of the same.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
It gets interesting in this book right here.
I know. I got something to read when we get on page 60.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I'll take it down there to still on page 58, the last paragraph there. Under Byzantine rule, Alexandria was both the temporal and spiritual capital of Egypt, as Chris just mentioned. The Greek Orthodox Church controlled the city, and the church was in turn controlled by the emperor of the East, the emperor of the Byzantine Empire, or the eastern half of the Roman Empire. The patriarch of the Greek Orthodox Church in Egypt was usually appointed by the Emperor of Byzantium, just as the Archbishop of Canterbury is today appointed by the Queen. The patriarch of Alexandria was not only the head of the church in Egypt, he was also the head of the state, the prefect of Egypt, to give him his correct administrative title. I'm going to go and read that next paragraph as well. Under Byzantine rule, the patriarchs of Alexandria spent a great deal of their time and energy persecuting the non-Orthodox Christian churches, such as the Monophysite or Jacobite church, which had become the national church of the Egyptians, or the Copts, as contrasted with the people of Greek origin. The Coptic church was a nationalist church and was the true expression of African nationalism. So I tried to look a little bit up into that to see about the Coptic church, and I've heard this before. I've seen that name before. However, I couldn't find anything there was something, but nothing that was stating that I could come across. Of course, there may require some more research for sure, to where, as it was saying, that was a true expression of African nationalism. I didn't get that impression from what I've come across about that. So I thought that was of interest.
Yeah, it was. I have that highlighted, and I couldn't really find much about that either, brother. But what we do know is the Coptic church was the non-Orthodox church. Right. So I don't believe they believe the same as the Roman Orthodox Church, and that's why they were wanting to. They started persecuting him actually. In Egypt, they didn't want them to practice whatever they were practicing, their specific belief, and I don't really know what the Coptics believed. I know they didn't believe that Jesus was God, though.
10-4.
10-4. Yeah.
And I'll take it on down to that last paragraph on 59. I think this is of importance right here on 59. So H.G. Will writes, in both Persia and Byzantium, it was an age of intolerance. Both empires were religious empires in a new way, in a way that greatly hampered the free activities of the human mind. Of course, the oldest empires in the world were religious empires, centering upon the worship of a god or a god king. Alexander was treated as a divinity, and the Caesars were gods in so much as they had altars and temples devoted to them, and the offering of incense was made a test of loyalty to the Roman state. But these older religions were essentially religions of act and fact. They did not invade the mind. If a man offered his sacrifice and bowed to the god, he was left not only to think, but to say practically whatever he wanted, whatever he liked about the affair. But the new sort of religions that had come into the world, and particularly Christianity, turned inward. These new faiths demanded not simple conformity, but understanding belief. Naturally, fierce controversy ensued upon the exact meaning of the things believed. These new religions were creed religions. The world was confronted with a new word, orthodoxy, and with a stern resolve to keep not only facts but speech and private thoughts within the limit of a set teaching. For to hold for to hold a wrong opinion, much more to convey it to other people, was no longer regarded as an intellectual defect, but a moral fault that might condemn a soul to everlasting destruction. And I'll read the next paragraph as well. There's a lot right there.
Okay.
Some of the rulers of the world found in the new creed religions a mean of using and controlling the wills of men. In the Roman Empire, Constantine the Great had made use of the Christian religion for precisely that reason. And in Persia, Ardashir the first turned the ancient Persian religion of Zoroaster into a state religion for exactly the same reason that led Constantine to adopt the Christian faith. I think that's where there was a huge turning point, if you will, how religion itself advanced into the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got something here. Can I go ahead and read it?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, bro.
So I wanted to let people understand what a creed religion is, and that's what was rising was creed religions. So a creed religion is a religion where belonging is strongly tied to believing and confessing specific doctrines. A creed is a formal statement of belief. So a creed religion says, in effect, to belong to this faith, you must believe that these specific claims are true. And that's what Christianity is, and that's what Islam is as well. Christianity creed often define beliefs about God, Jesus, salvation, the church, and resurrection, and so on. This comes down to the Nicene Creed, which you guys brought up. But let's talk about what the Nicene Creed actually is. The Nicene Creed, it was declared that Jesus Christ is begotten, not made, being of one substance with the Father. The phrase "one substance" comes from the Greek word homoios, meaning Jesus and the Father are the same divine being or essence. And then who made the Council of Nicaea? The Nicene Creed was produced at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. And the council was called the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great. The important distinction here is that Constantine did not personally write the doctrine himself. He called the council because the empire was being divided in religious conflict, and the bishops debated theology and produced a creed. So, and a lot of people, you need to understand what a bishop is during that time. The bishops were the rulers of certain areas, all right? They were the people in charge. And so these lords came to Constantine. They were part of I think there was over 300 or 400 of them got together. And then they went over these mounds and mounds of scrolls and it came down to the 66. And then they all voted on what the creed is. And then they established the religion. And that's where we get Christianity from. If a lot of people don't really understand the origins of Christianity. And that's when the religion took off, is when the government of Rome claimed it as a religion, a creed religion, and then started forcing people to believe in it.
Yeah.
I know it was a little, to be exact, it was around 318 bishops.
Yes. Yes. The Crusades were dangerous at that time. I mean, Christians fighting the pagans to get them to, transfer, if you would say, to the Christian way was most people don't even understand how how diabolic that was. Those
Mhm.
crusades. Those crusades
Yeah.
were, man.
And it was all the religions. It just wasn't one.
That's right.
It was
That's
all
right.
the
True.
creed religions, all fighting for the same crap.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
And so to give you the flip side of that as well, so orthodoxy too was very important at that time as well. And so to give you a little bit of insight into that, orthodoxy religious meaning. So their key points were adherence to tradition, authority to scriptures, community practices, moral and ethical standards, spiritual discipline, and historical continuity. And so I did a little bit of research on to understand the differences between the creed and the Orthodox religions. And so, by definition, creed refers to a formal statement of beliefs, while Orthodox religion emphasizes adherence to established doctrines and practices. Flexibility, creeds can vary uh, widely and may evolve over time. Orthodox religions typically maintain traditional beliefs and practices. Authority, creeds are often treated by individuals or groups. Orthodox religions derive authority from sacred texts and historical traditions. Uh, Creeds can be inclusive, allowing for diverse interpretations. Orthodox religions usually require strict adherence to specific beliefs. And that's just a little bit of insight to the differences between those two. And you also had at the same time Zoroaster as well. So there was a lot of conflict. And as we were talking about, religion was it was taken very seriously back then, in those times. A lot of religious wars and
Mhm.
whatnot. But we also
Yes.
too, we talked about this as well, about Constantine, and as we mentioned here, the king of Persia. And so there are true reasons for using religion. It wasn't just for religion itself. There was also a political um, aspect to it as well. To use to their advantage. It wasn't just to get people into the church. It was to get them to their side.
Well, we have that with the next page when we get into Muhammad, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's a direct prime example of using religion politically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And let me
Yes.
ask you guys this, even in based upon H.G. Wells' mindset, what do you think was how the old religion came to the new? What was the psychological shift
I think it was.
itself?
I feel like it was more about the governments wanting control because their empires were falling apart, and then they realized that people were really liking and going head over heels for these religions, and so they realized, hey, this is where we can control people. We'll use religion and God, and then
Mhm.
separate God from the self, make it, and then outsource God to where you have to go through someone to get to God.
Mhm.
Right.
I
Right.
agree with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. They says H.G. Wells goes into saying that it was more psychological. He was
Mhm.
saying that people were just it changed how people saw authority. It changed how humanity, human inequality. That was probably one of the biggest changes. It was
Mhm.
he even considered that it was unstable. It was powerful but yet unstable, causing people to react in a way where they were willing to die for every bit of what they believed in. And
And
Mhm.
and
that's why
then
we have all these wars.
that is sure. That is exactly
Mhm.
why we have all those wars. Yes,
Mhm. Well, listen, they took away your free will with
I did.
religion. They took away
They
your free
did.
will. You could no
Right.
longer think and say what you wanted to. There were penalties for that. Severe. There came to be severe penalty. I mean, you lost your life
True.
if you
You sure did.
said the wrong thing.
But
You
like
know,
they
Sure
like
did.
to say you have free will.
Yes, yes, and
Well,
and I'll tie that back into the Egyptian. What their belief was, karma, if you was your deciding
mm-hmm,
factor. There
mm-hmm,
was no, there was no one coming to give you a second chance, if you will, once you died. The resurrection, if you will, the karma is what your life was based on, and so you had free will to do that. However, with these, and you mentioned the creeds, those they formed the direction periodically throughout history to what was going to be dictated, what was going to be allowed, and what was not going
mm-hmm,
to be allowed. And that
mm-hmm,
made a huge impact on
mm-hmm,
religion going forward. And as we know,
mm-hmm.
religion it is one of the pillars of humanity, if you will.
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
absolutely.
And I want, if anyone's listening out there, like really look into this and understand that religion, these religions that most people believe, they were formed by governmental bodies.
Yes, yes. Facts,
Mhm.
I think
facts.
that's really
Mhm.
important. I don't think a lot of people in religion understand where their religion actually comes from. Maybe not the
Mm-hmm,
beliefs that are within that religion, but the religion themselves and the doctrine, the creed, and then the Orthodox that came from that. Everything came from a group of guys that were in power, in authority,
Right.
creating this to control other people.
Yes. Yes. Facts.
I know I've said it more than once, but
Keep saying it, brother. Keep saying
I
it.
want to
Ken.
hammer down.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
I want to say, for those who are just joining us, welcome to our podcast, Brothers of Many Words. I am your host, King RP. I'm joined here by King Mackie and King Christopher. Our podcast is where we read deeper, think higher, and we speak with purpose. Today, we're talking about the African Glory by author J.C. DeGraff Johnson. And so to continue on, you mentioned Muhammad on page 61. So he definitely was a major influence, if you will, for the Mohammedanism religion.
That's a funny word, Mohammedanism. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, I know, huh?
Yeah, it takes some practice for sure. So 61. And we had spoken about the Prophet Muhammad, you know, in before he was also called the praiser, if you will. So on Muhammad, see on page 61 there in the middle of the page, another religion had appeared on the scene, and its founder was actually calling upon the two great rulers of the world to submit to it, which were Emperor Heraclius of Syria and also the king of Persia, Khedive. So he sent both of those kings letters asking them to submit to Mohammedanism. Who was the Prophet Muhammad? Who was this Prophet Muhammad who was so bold as to demand the acceptance of his religion by two great rulers who had state religions of their own? Muhammad was born in 571, 6 years after the death of Emperor Justinian. Some hold that he was born in Mecca, though others believe that he may have been born in Medina. Muhammad, or the praiser, appears first in history as the young husband of a widow of a rich merchant in the city of Mecca. He was an Arab of the Quraysh tribe of Western Arabia and was born to a poor but well-respected and influential family. And as we know, he grew to be quite powerful.
Yeah. He was born in Mecca, and I believe he was born into something I learned from this book is that he was born into a pagan religion. And that religion was based around, I believe, the worship of Saturn, the planet Saturn.
That I did know.
No, you said you did know?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the black stone, the onyx stone, when they in Mecca when they go every year and they walk around that black cube.
Right.
Well, inside that black cube is also a black onyx stone, and this is the stone that's mentioned in the book, the meteorite. At the very
page, in the page 61, you're right.
Yeah, it says the cult on the very bottom page of 61. The cult entered upon the worship of a wonderful black stone, the remains of an immense meteorite.
Transformers.
But yeah, inside that black cube is that tiny black onyx stone, and they still make that pilgrimage today. And it's actually mentioned Muhammad. Well, we'll wait till we get to that page. That's 2 more pages from now.
And so just to continue on that, what you're talking about on page 61, that to carry that last paragraph over to page 62, the remains of an immense meteorite that you were just talking about, the black stone, side by side with the worship of the stone was the worship of a goddess named Alat. Alat was to become the origin of the name Allah, applied by Mohammedans to the supreme God. Allah acquired a masculine sense, although in its original form, the word was feminine. So we see here the transition from feminine to masculine.
Not just Christianity.
Not just Christianity. I mean, this has been from the very beginning.
The switch from feminine to masculine.
Yes.
And then it's been the downfall ever since.
Yes.
Ever since. Yep.
Yes. Anybody have anything on page 62?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought that was, I just thought it was fascinating. I really didn't know that Islam came from pagan worship, from Allah, and then worshiping a female god and switching over to Allah. but they are still doing the same exact pagan rituals, just like Christians are.
Right. Yes, they are.
They're still making the
Yep.
pagan pilgrimage to Mecca, walking around the stone, which is the
Right.
same. It's like, you know, when Christians celebrate the on Christmas, you know, December 25th and Easter. Those are all pagan holidays.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. They sure are.
And yet there is such a battle between paganism and Christianity. You
Yes.
know, there's always that battle. It always has been, and yet they are. Christianity has borrowed from paganism. I mean,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
Christianity is paganism.
It is. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yes,
Makes
yes,
no
yes.
sense. Makes
it
no
doesn't.
sense.
yes.
When you
Listen,
actually
what they
start-
couldn't.
What I was saying is when you
When
actually
I was
start
look-
reading the Bible without a religious perspective, you start to see things
Mhm.
you didn't see before.
Right. And so what Christianity did so many moons ago, you know, what they couldn't, they took the parts of the pagan aspect, if you will, and tried to incorporate it into Christianity, you know, to get the people to come follow Christianity.
That's the only
And
way
so
they
what-
would do it. Yeah.
That's the only way they would do it. And so what they couldn't use or what didn't work, they just tossed it to the side. So let's try this. And this is where picking up a book becomes crucial. You know, yes, we are so far removed from antiquity. However, there's an origin to everything. And you go back to look at the origins, they question everything. It's
Yes.
Oh,
what
yes.
what you
Oh,
do
yes.
today has a good shot, has a completely different meaning
Absolutely.
a long time ago to what you're doing
Absolutely.
now. Know what you are, know what you put your faith in, know what you are, have an idea what you're following, not just based on when you became aware and what your parents say. Pick up a book. You didn't pick a book, you can get on the internet, however you want to do it. But start the journey of finding out what things really are. What things
Yeah.
really are.
Yeah. Hey, that's
really
just like
start
Christmas.
studying
Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Saturnalia. You know, most people ain't even heard of Saturnalia.
What's Saturnalia?
Saturnalia was really where Christmas came from. Saturnalia was one of the most important festivals in ancient Rome, dedicated to the god Saturn, who was a winter celebration that flipped Roman society upside down for a short period of time. Saturnalia took place in mid-December. It says here December 17th to the 25th, sometimes to the 23rd. It was one of the most striking parts of Saturnalia was the temporary suspension of social hierarchy. Slaves could sit at the table with masters. Some slaves were served by their own masters. Gambling was allowed. People were parties. They had orgies. It was basically just orgies going on the entire time.
Well, that's what
You know.
Easter was. Easter was fertility.
Yes, it was.
They had
Yes, it
orgies, got
was.
everybody pregnant.
Yeah.
And what's 9 months after Easter?
Yes. 9
December
months after Easter.
25th.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
when they Yeah.
That's a good correlation. That's what's up. Okay.
I mean, that is that they had the orgies in Easter, and then 9 months later,
Wow.
all the women be having their babies, prime time
Right.
for slaughter, for baby sacrifice.
Yeah, and that's true. When you look into the god
Yeah.
Saturn, he was big about supposedly eating children and sacrificing children.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
All right.
And it's tied to the hexagon storm on Saturn too. If you ever
Wow.
look
Yes, it
into that.
is. Yes,
It's kinda
it
Great
is.
information.
crazy.
Kings. That is.
Yeah, it
crazy.
is.
That
Yeah,
is
it is.
crazy.
Because
So
the
here
black
we-
cube, if you ever draw a black cube on a piece of piece of paper, like I just draw a cube, you see it. There's a hexagon there. It's the shape of a hexagon. There's 6 sides when you draw a cube on a piece of paper.
Hmm.
And then there's a hexagon storm on Saturn, and then part of that is of Islam is Saturn worship.
All right, y'all. Hold on. We got Nick chiming in. He's texting me saying, "Hey, I got something to say." He's in the chat. You guys mind me reading this?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, we'll if we can, let's save that till the end. I got a space for that. We'll get to that at the end
10-4.
Okay.
if we can. We'll get on through this knowledge right here. But that was great information right there, Kings. And religion is something I think we certainly should keep on the list for a future year of exploration, if you will.
10-4.
For sure. Okay, on page 63, I thought that that first paragraph right there, in 623, that is a year after the Hijra, the flight from Mecca Muhammad attracted attention by establishing himself in Palm Oasis at Yathrib or Medina, not only as the leader of a leading raiding band of Arabs, but also as the leader of a new mythic religion. And so that hijra, that is of significance to their religion. That's just like I believe that's celebrated to because he was let's see here. Let's see here. The hijra was Muhammad's departure from Mecca to Medina in AD 622, prompted by the opposition of merchants of Mecca by marking the consolidation of the first Muslim community. So that was great. It was great significance. They were I don't think they were very happy with him at first because of what he wanted to do.
No,
Go ahead.
no, he wasn't. Actually, can I read this? Continue what
Yes.
you're reading.
Yes.
So it says, and right in the middle of page 63, and here was Muhammad preaching a new religion, which was to destroy Kaaba and Alat and bring financial ruin to the whole host of priests, government officials, and merchants who made money out of the thousands of pilgrims who came to worship in Mecca. Vested interests dictated that Muhammad must be destroyed, and Muhammad understood the situation only too well. For when at last a treaty was signed between Medina and Mecca, and Muhammad ruled that Mecca was to be the holy city, and that the new religion and the pilgrimages to Mecca were to continue. And so they established a new religion and kept all the old practices, just
Yes.
like the Romans did, so they can keep on collecting taxes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
It's all
Back
about
to
money
taxes.
and power. Money
Yes.
and power. Goodness gracious.
It's all about
Yes.
control, man.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what all
Yes.
this is. And
Yeah.
something I wanted to mention, this page did mention about Muhammad wives, and just something about religion is Muhammad had a lot of wives,
Mhm.
They did.
but his followers weren't allowed to have that many wives.
That's right.
Of course not.
That's
Of course
right.
not.
That's
You
right.
can't share the power and wealth. You can't do
That's
that.
right.
And like I can't believe people still wanted to follow him though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that's
But
just
we-
one example of him being a liar, of being a
Yeah.
hypocrite.
Influencer.
Yes.
Influencer.
Influencer. And just above that, what you just mentioned about his wife, that last sentence there of that major paragraph about China. It must be recorded that the emperor of China not only received Muhammad's messages well, but allowed them to build a mosque at Canton, which survives to this day, the oldest mosque in the world.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So we're moving on to. Is there anybody have anything else on those pages?
No, sir.
Nope. No, sir.
Okay, let's move on to page 64. 64.
Ooh.
So
I mean, it talks about how I didn't know this, that Muhammad wrote the entire Quran himself.
mhm,
There's only one author.
Mhm.
mhm.
That's shady in my opinion.
So,
well,
you know, either one of them are shady. You got hundreds of people writing it and creating one, and you got one person writing it. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just all shady from the get go.
You're right.
And basically, page 64 and 65, goes into in depth of the Arab conquest of Africa, if you will. There's a lot of information there that you gentlemen have something specifically about that.
Yeah,
Um,
Muhammad wasn't really the main person responsible for spreading Islam.
mhm.
He got it going and he was the brains behind the operation, but it was actually his second, Abu Bek. Abu Bek was the one that's mainly responsible for the spread of Islam after.
Who became very powerful.
Yes.
Very powerful.
Yep.
Okay, Kings, we'll take it on to chapter 7. Chapter 7, the Arab conquest of Africa. It's a lot of conquest in Africa, trying to take
Yes.
over that huge, beautiful country.
There's a lot of history in Africa.
There's a lot of
Yeah, it
history
is.
there, man.
Yeah.
And I'll start right there at the very bottom in reference to, let me just read that's second to last paragraph. Among the African chiefs converted to the Islamic faith during the Arab invasion of Morocco was the great general known as Tariq. Tariq's name is given by one historian as Tarif Ibn Zarqa, but it is safe to stick with plain Tariq. Tariq was given the rank of general in the Arab army by Musa ibn Nasir. Musa later left Tariq in charge of Tangiers and made him governor of Mediterranean. All this happened within 8 years of Kahina's abortive effort um, to keep Africa for the Africans. Now Tariq grows on. He is, you know, turned out to be a great, great, great general. His conquest of what he did was quite powerful, even so to the point that um, uh, Musa was getting upset because he saw that Tariq was conquering all these lands, and wanted to he wanted to be a part of that. So he took off in haste to get a little taste, so he could say that he did that. But Tariq
Right.
um, uh, was a great general.
Yes.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
And that's kind of like that was Islam's kind of their thing, right? Their motto. They conquered everything.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted absolute control.
Mhm.
I mean, they were a conquering religion.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. On page 69. Page 69.
Oh, Tarek did become something I put down on 69 is that General Tarek did eventually become master of Spain. It was a tough, bloody,
did.
nasty battle between the Visigoths and himself, but he eventually took over the Gothic kingdoms of Spain.
They did. They did. They did. And so I'll read that on page 69, that last little sentence there, and on to page 70. The conquest of Spain was an African conquest. They were Mohammedan Africans, not Arabs, who laid low the Gothic kingdom of Spain. Professor C.P. Groves remarks that an Arab leader, Musa Nasir, apparently taken by surprise at the speed of events, hastened across the army the following year to complete the conquest, thus associating Arab arms with the final victory. He was not, he wanted a piece of the pie,
Sure
if you
did.
will. And so it
Better
goes
sit
on
down
to,
somewhere. Better sit down
come on.
somewhere.
You know, now page 70 into 71, I got out of those the persecution, if you will, of the Christians from from the Muslims, if you will, Mohammedanism, and how they were treated, and even so too, the second to the third to last paragraph. Just well, no, we'll go on and go on. Does anybody have anything of significance on that? That's what I got on page 70 and 71.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just to keep on the persecution. I mean, a lot of
Mhm.
people during this time were swapping back and forth, and we see leaders
Mhm.
swapping back and forth from
Mhm.
Christianity to Muslim just to
Right.
avoid death.
Sure.
Mhm.
So a lot of people were just following these religions so they wouldn't die, not
Mhm.
because they actually believed him. They were just
Right.
trying to avoid death.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And when you're being forced to do something anyway,
Yeah.
you know, how can you say that it's true to his nature of his own God if you have to be forced to do? You know,
Mhm.
if God is who he says he is in your particular religion, allow it to be given lightly versus being forced to do so.
Yeah, it
That's
don't
right.
seem like Christianity was very loving back then.
That's right.
No, no, not at all.
Versus today,
That's
they
right.
preach all love, love this and love that.
Oh,
But back
oh,
then, they were
God.
just murdering and killing people.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Like, you don't believe in my God? Well, screw you. You're done.
Right.
Right.
Yes. And then
Yeah.
kill you in the name of Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, they yeah, you're right. They taxed them severely. They made them wear different colors. It's and page 72 goes into that as well.
And
You
they're
know,
also
to
doing the same thing for taxes. People
yes,
hopping
for
back and
taxes
forth
as well.
because they
Yep.
were being forced to pay taxes. And
Absolutely.
that's something that happened with the Islam faith is they were losing tax money because they were letting people, they were telling people if you converted, you don't have to pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well,
Mhm.
everyone converted, and they were like, "Oh, well, we're losing tax money now because everyone's converted to Islam," and so they started taxing their converts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm going to move on to page 73. On page 73, I'm going to get to that second paragraph there. According to Leclerc, non-Catholic Christian Jews and pagans were all made subject to certain disabilities. No doubt Justinian's intention was to make the population feel that it would be better off in the church than outside of it. Professor C.P. Groves commenting on this phrase in the history of the church in Africa says, religious propaganda for imperial expansion was the policy. The policy was so far successful as to bring within the pale of the church a number of barbar peoples not hitherto touched, to bring them in, that is to say, as far as the rulers' nominal assent was given. Such conversions, presumably not based on that I can't even say that word instruction, uh, and undertaken from political motives, were just as permanent as the political interests of those concerned, as we have mentioned before. It wasn't wasn't just about the faith.
No,
That
it was
wasn't
all
the best.
propaganda.
It was all propaganda.
That's how both religions were built. They were built off of propaganda for control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's so funny. So as we're listening, as I hear you guys talking, we're talking. A song pops in my head: "Money, Power, and Respect." 1998, Little Kim and Locks. You ever remember hearing that?
No.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, we have to look it up. Every time
Okay,
we're
well, let me
reading
write
this
this
about
down.
money and power and respect,
Right.
this song pops in my head. I feel like it should be the theme song behind this this
Hey, that
this
could fit into
particular chapter.
a lot of
Oh yes.
civilization. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
them.
Well, I
Mm-hmm.
think this is really important because it affects how people live their lives.
Mhm.
Like
Right.
people base major life decisions off of religion, and I think if people are given knowledge and having that's what knowledge is freedom.
Yes,
When you
it
have the
is.
knowledge, you're free to live your life without
Mhm.
fear of this God hanging over you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is why
Live
it's
your
so
life.
important to read this
Mhm.
stuff, guys.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. It is.
Yeah.
And for those who are just joining us, welcome to our podcast, Brothers of Many Words. We're getting into it right now. We're getting into it. I'm your host, King RP. I'm joined here with King Mac and King Christopher. We are covering Getting Deep into African Glory by the author J.C. DeGraff Johnson. And so moving on to page 74. And 74,
I'm going to come one more thing on 72
ahead.
before we move.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that they were still persecuting Christians and whatnot,
Mhm.
and that they would persecute on and off. They would stop the persecutions, and then as soon as people would start not listening or not doing what they're told, they would start the persecutions again and kill people to get people back in line.
Mhm.
Right.
10-4.
Right. Yeah.
10-4. So 74, from my opinion, has to do with the Moors. The Moors, 74 and on through the end of the book. I mean, the end of the chapter, if you will. And the Moors were very powerful. They're not talked about very much throughout in history and anywhere. There's certainly not in any curriculum that I've ever taken that the Moors would even mention that. I didn't even know who they were. I'm gonna be real honest with you.
I had no idea until I started reading these books.
Taking this journey, but they were very important to the history of Europe. There's no
Yes.
two ways about that. And so, just to give you a little bit of insight here on page 75, they made advancements in mathematics, medicine,
Mhm.
physical sciences, um, astronomy, metallurgical, technical devices. Whose work on alloys, dyes, distilling, tinctures,
Yep.
essences, and optical glass literally revolutionized the world. They were very influential in the development of Europe. And so I'll read on page 75 here, that second to the last paragraph. From the Chinese, the Arabs learned how to manufacture paper, and they in turn transmitted the knowledge to Europe and the rest of the world. From the Indians, the Arabs learned new mathematical forms and new philosophies, which they imparted to Europe and the rest of the world. And that's not talked about enough. These
No.
places, these things have origins. They didn't just
Mhm.
come from nowhere, and
Mhm.
it's part of who you are today.
Yeah, the
Right.
Moors developed a lot of new sciences.
Yeah, they
And
did.
also,
did.
something I thought was interesting was the two words algebra and chemistry.
Mhm.
Those English words actually have their roots in Aramaic, and they're an Arabic word.
Mhm.
They
Right.
come from this period of time when
Mhm.
Yes.
the Arabs discovered algebra and chemistry.
Mm-hmm. And I'll take it on to page 76, which is the last page of chapter 7, the last paragraph. It was through Africa that the new knowledge of China, India, and Arabia reached Europe. And it was Africa which supplied the men who protected Muslim Europe or Spain from attack, and thus made it possible for the new learning to take root and develop.
Yep.
And I think that's not talked about enough. That's not talked
No.
about enough.
No, it ain't talked about at all.
No, they brought a lot of experimental sciences.
And
Yeah.
so I want to tie a little, tie a little bit of into this. And so we were talking about religion and how the Christians were persecuted, and we spoke on faith. We spoke on faith, and so you know their faith. So their faith wasn't just tied to the doctrines and the theories of that religion. It wasn't just about that. They didn't go preach Christian. Not in the beginning. I would say it was more of that. But as Mohammedanism had come, their faith was challenged.
Right.
So, are you going to stay Christian and stay persecuted, or are you not going to do? Are you going to switch sides? So, faith. How was their faith? We talked about how was their faith.
I don't think they had much faith back then. I think they were just surviving
Hmm.
for their lives. I don't think they even
Absolutely.
had the time and the ability to be safe enough to even decide which religion to follow.
Right.
They were
Mhm.
just fighting for survival. That's my opinion. That's what
Yeah.
that's what it
Mhm.
seems like. What do you
Yeah.
guys think?
I would agree. I would agree.
No,
So
I definitely
yeah,
agree. You know, with the
survival.
text, do what you. Yep.
But it's still
It's
the
like
same thing to this day. It's the same
I
thing
was just
to
going
this
to tie
day.
that in. I was
Yeah,
just
it's the
going to
same
tie
thing.
that in.
People deal that because it's the common narrative, and you step outside that common narrative, you're gonna get persecuted by family, friends,
Hmm.
So it's still about survival to this day,
Hmm.
even
Well,
though
let
you
me ask
don't
you this.
understand the root.
Let me ask you this. So, is faith possible today?
Faith in a religion?
No faith, well, it doesn't matter in anything because you see, as we had just read, faith is almost like a flyby thing. To some degree back then, it was a mask for survival, if you will, because so when I tied into like so faith, like the kamikaze jet fighters in World War II, they dive bomb their planes for their country.
Yeah.
You have certain individuals of some religions that will, you know, or extreme with strapping in bombs to themselves and blowing up things. And then you have, the civil rights movement like Martin Luther King, who was very stood by what he said. You have Gandhi, things of people of those stature when it comes to faith. So how does that apply today? Can faith be that strong in modern times?
Yes, it still is. I mean, that's why we have the extremists on all the religions
You think it's
Mhm.
possible?
that prefer people to kill themselves due to a
Well,
faith.
no. I mean, kill himself. I mean, to have a faith that strong. I don't not
Yeah,
kill
I mean,
themselves.
We
I think
still,
that's
yes.
I think we still do. I mean, you
Oh
look at
yes.
the white supremacists. They're most of
Mhm.
them
Hmm.
follow Christianity,
Yes.
and so it's
Mhm.
obvious where they get their beliefs from. And then we still
Mhm.
have the extremist Islams out there
Right.
um, that are still killing people. There's
Hmm.
actually Christians being killed right now in Africa.
Mhm.
They're being
Mhm.
persecuted. I mean, this has never stopped.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. That's great, Kings. So I want to tie this into a
There's-
new section here, and Haru
there-
had brought this up. Go ahead.
Before you
wanna
move
say
on,
something?
there's one thing on the last 2 pages I wanted to mention that I
Yeah,
just
go
thought
ahead.
was really interesting. That
Sure.
the Arabs, there's a lot of talk about the Arabs. They were actively searching for the Philosopher's Stone, and that's where we get a lot of the Philosopher's Stone stories
Mhm.
from. Is these
Mhm.
Arabs actively searching for it at the time? And I thought that was interesting, with them being a religion believing in magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the
Paganism.
Philosopher's Stone was about. It's
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
the fountain of youth, eternal life.
Mm-hmm.
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 When their religion
Yeah.
talks about eternal life comes from their God, and they were looking
Right.
for something that that wasn't from their God. I just
Right.
thought that was
Mhm.
interesting.
No,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's
You
very
give people the
interesting.
false narrative while you behind the scenes looking for the real.
Or it's just anyone power, like they're using their power however they want to control
Sure.
you, and then they go look for technology.
That's true.
So I
And
guess
people,
the thought is too, when we think about this, is that when how do you live now as men, understanding what we're reading and about faith and about God and religion comes from? How do you stand on religion now? You know what I mean? Do
don't.
we believe in religion at all? And then what faith do you live by? Is there a
What
particular faith that you live by?
so
I
you
mean, recently in the last couple of years for myself is I believe what Yeshua was actually talking about was faith in yourself, not outsourcing your faith.
it starts there. Sure.
Yeah.
And so you're dead on. It's like you have so many outlets, so many distractions, so many pleasures in this day and world. And so And that's why I was asking the question about faith. You know, can it still be strong? Yes, yes, it can be. But you are dead on. It starts with it has to start with yourself, and then understanding the history of the faith that you are choosing to follow,
Yes.
not just on the surface level of what is today. You should go back to see where it started and how it has evolved and changed through time, to see to
Mhm.
what, if your faith should be placed in that religion, that yes, that requires effort, yes, that requires sacrifice and time to do that, and it is worth it, instead of just
Mhm.
following something blindly,
Mhm.
in my opinion.
And I want to
Yeah.
go ahead and say too, with how much we talk about these religions, and I give my opinions about them. If anyone out there that's listening, you're a religious person, you believe in Christianity or Islam. I'm not saying you're a bad person if you believe in religion at all.
No,
I mean, everyone has their right to live how they want. But just for me personally, no, I don't follow religion anymore.
no.
But hey, if
We're just reading the book, brother. We're just reading the book, and
yeah,
you know, bringing out the information that we come to us. So no one ever take it personal. We're just reading the book and reading the thoughts from this book. And so we'll move on and open up a new segment here, and it's called the listening chair. The listening chair is where we take people's questions and things like that. So we had mentioned that Nick has something he wanted to say, and so we'll save questions and phone calls like that for this part there, and give people a chance to voice their opinion. Go ahead, King. What did Nick have to say?
All right. So Nick stated, worldwide there are thousands of Bible translations. The complete Bible. Actually, he wanted me to notify him and let him know we were gonna be asking his question. Hold on. Let me see. We're on. All right. Okay, excuse me. So, worldwide, there are thousands of Bible translations. The complete Bible has been translated into over 700 languages, while partially translation or New Testament exists more than 3,000 languages. In English alone, scholars estimate there are hundreds of different translations, reversions, and paraphrases. So we all know the different words have been different meanings, starting translations. So, how do we know exactly which ones are right and which ones are changed to a different agenda?
You're not.
you're not gonna unless you know the language.
That, unless you can go back and get the original of that thing, which we know. Oh no, we don't know, but we have read how there was so much destruction of literature uh, back so way back when. You know, that's I don't listen. I don't even know if that's even possible. Now there may be scripts and texts that are in safekeeping somewhere of antiquity. To get a hold of those, I would be quite a task.
Yeah, they're sitting right there
Yeah.
in Vatican, man.
Probably
Yeah.
something there.
I think that really I think if we could give a creator some opportunity of creating us, I would think the laws that are written within will be within us, will be within ourselves.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? When you look into the movie Transformers, their law was written within their code. You
Hmm.
see what I'm saying? And so they live by that based upon what was within them. But
Hmm.
each person had his own duties. Bumblebee had his duty. You know, everybody had their own particular duty because they were part of one body. You see what I'm saying? But they're
Hmm.
individual, just like we are to this day. So I think the question is to ask yourself internally. You know what I mean? When you start looking into quantum physics and look into the body and all that, the body looks to correct us. So does the mind and so does the soul. You know, when all three are aligned, which is considered the Trinity, the mind, the body, and soul, you get a complete formation of who you are. And you
Hmm.
begin to know thyself, and then you begin to live by the law that's within yourself. So
Hmm.
I think it's difficult for us when you start to read outside yourself. That's when it becomes contradicting to who you really are. And that's where the
Hmm.
distractions come in. But
Hmm.
when you start to meditate and live within yourself, you live by your own law, which is encoded within you. So that's my
Hmm.
opinion about, or my question, or my answer, I guess, to Nick's question.
Yeah,
That's a
man,
great
and I
point,
love
brother.
that answer.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And that goes into a
Absolutely.
lot of what Yeshua talks about. It's a lot of the same teachings Yeshua talks about.
absolutely,
Hmm.
I mean, that's
absolutely.
why Yeshua's the greatest commandment is to brotherly love. Love your neighbor
Hmm.
as yourself.
True.
Hmm.
You ever stop to
And your
think
wife.
about?
Yes.
You ever stop to
Hmm.
think about why? Why did he
Hmm.
say to love your neighbor as yourself? Like to
Mm-hmm.
love your enemy as yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we are all God manifested in the flesh,
Right.
then that is you. The guy that
Yes.
you're hating is you. And so
Yes,
when you have that,
is facts.
and then when you have that
Yes.
perspective, like when you look at that individual, now you can treat that person completely different when you actually see
Right.
that person as you.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Then
Yes,
you
sir.
can love that person. And that's why
Mhm.
self-love and self-faith is so important. Because
Right.
once you have that self-love and that faith, now you can start spreading that to someone else and help someone else see that and the power within them.
Preach,
what we're
preacher.
doing.
Preach.
doing here, man.
Preach. Ah! That's what's up, bro.
All right. That was very good. Very, very good. So I'm gonna pose this one question to the world. I'm gonna pose this question to the world. In a modern world driven by speed, uncertainty, and constant change, does faith still serve as a source of true guidance and inner stability, or has it become something many people claim outwardly but struggle to live by inwardly? One more time. Question is to the world. In a modern world driven by speed, uncertainty, and constant change, does faith still serve as a source of true guidance and inner stability, or has it become something many people claim outwardly but struggle to live by inwardly? I pose that to you guys out there. Give it some thought. Think about it. Think about it. We come back on. Give us your thoughts and insights. But think about that and give us some. An answer to it for yourself. And what you gentlemen, both of you, both of those responses, King Mackey and King Christopher, were very insightful. Very good stuff right there. Very good. That is what is called growth.
Amen.
Inner
Yes,
growth.
yes, yes,
You know,
yes.
absolutely.
Can I get a witness?
Hey, 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 hey.
Oh,
Hey, King.
man.
Hey, man. Hey, great podcast, Kings. Great podcast. Closing remarks, anybody?
I love all you
Wonderful.
guys.
Yes.
Okay,
Appreciate you,
love you
Kings.
too, King.
Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you for joining Sunday Book Club. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this with someone who values meaningful conversation, and join us next Sunday as we continue building through wisdom, experience, and purpose. King Christopher, take us out.
As always, we end with our 3 pillars for success. Number 1 is faith. Trust in your own power. Believe deeply in your purpose. Build unshakable confidence through action. Dedication. Show up when no one's watching. Stand firm in your commitment to grow. Put in the reps mentally, physically, and daily. And the last one, number 3, discipline. Forge your character through consistency. Set your code and follow it without compromise. Control your impulses. Command your results.
Outstanding. Peace, Kings. Love you.
Love you.
All right. Love you too.